So, what do you want to do now, you Goji? I don't know what to do, Yang. I literally don't know what to do. It didn't take long for Ruby, Weiss, and Blake to come back. They all decided to head back to their rooms before it was night time. It was middle of the evening, and all the classes were all over, and it was almost time for nighttime to start, and for all students to go back to their rooms. Luckily, Junior had enough time to basically hang out with Ruby and Weiss, Blake, and Yang. So, Junior, I actually have a question for you. Sure, what is it? What's your, backstory? My backstory? Ruby, don't ask him simple, a personal question if he doesn't want to talk about it. No, it's fine, Yang. I also don't mind talking about it. Besides, maybe it might bring up some good memories. So, I'll tell you. You all know my father, who goes by the name of Heisei Goji, or Senior Goji, or Senior Godzilla, or whatever you want to call him. You all know him, right? Yeah? Well, you all also know my mom, Gorjiren. Well, I'll tell you the real story on how those two met first. Then later end up having me. It all began in the year 1991. It was in the year of 1991, and basically, Japan was under attack by a monster by the name of King Ghidorah. It was small little creatures called Dorrats, who came from the future, from humans from the future, who basically replaced the Godzilla-saurus, who was eventually going to be my mom. Wait, I thought the Godzilla-saurus in 1991 was your father. No, my father was still pretty much active. They just grabbed a different Godzilla-saurus and just thought that it was the same one from 1954. Anyways, the humans from the future want to recreate their home. Well, they basically want to recreate everything and just make it to their own personal image. But they didn't realize that my dad was still alive and still very active. When they realized it, they realized that humanity might have hope against King Ghidorah. My dad was far larger than before. But then the military ended up detecting another signal. And it was in fact another Godzilla. Then they realized about the Godzilla source that they brought back from the past to the present day. Apparently, they realized that they have a lot more nuclear energy. And the nuclear energy turned the Godzilla source into my mom, Gorgirin. You see, my dad was suffering under one thing, and that was the Monster Kingdom, and, well, the Monster Kingdom needs a queen to keep the kingdom in balance. My dad was searching for a compatible queen, but he couldn't find one. But when he arrived onto land, and he saw my mom, the military realized that the other Godzilla is actually a female, and they realized that they basically created a female Godzilla. My dad was so happy. He was so happy to see another Godzilla. He's been alone all of his life. And now seeing another Godzilla, he couldn't believe it. Luckily, my dad was managed to convince Gorgirin to help him take down King Ghidorah. Because King Ghidorah was upsetting the natural order, the natural balance within nature. And luckily enough, my mom was managed to agree with him. And agreed to help him. They confronted King Ghidorah and ended up battling the three-headed dragon. My mom was a bit more agile, a bit more quicker, and a bit more smarter than my dad. So, Mom grabbed his head and slammed him on the ground so that way my dad can grab his tail, and ended up slamming him on the ground multiple times. But King Ghidorah got up and started wrapping his neck around grab his arms so that he could wrap his neck around my dad's neck, so basically to try to strangle him. But that didn't work because of my dad ended up using his nuclear pulse. And he used his atomic breath to decapitate the middle head. With the help of the humans from the present day, they managed to send the ship to the battlefield and straight to the battlefield, and my dad and my mom used their atomic breath to destroy the ship. After that, my dad fired another blast with an atomic breath at King Ghidorah's wing, and King Ghidorah collapsed and landed straight into the ocean. After that, Gorgirin was managed to convince my dad to leave mankind alone. My dad had interest on going to destroy some buildings. but my mom convinced him to leave mankind alone. And my dad stated that he'll do anything for her. And the military realized that as long as the female Godzilla, or aka my mom, remains alive, well, the less of a chance for my dad to come and destroy their cities. So, for a while, my mom was managed to keep my dad at bay for a while. For a time, they got to know each other, and, well, they ended up dating. After for a while, a few years later, they ended up getting married and they ended up having me. Of course, there were some problems along the way. Like what? Well, there was the 1993 incident and the 1994 incident. Oh yeah. And finally, there was the 1995 incident. Like I said before, I haven't seen my mom for years. Ever since our home island got destroyed. Most people assume that she's dead. I don't think so. I can still sense her presence. I just don't know where she's at. You haven't seen your mom in years, ever since 1995? No, I haven't seen my mom. Like I said before, most of the kaiju think she's dead. But I don't think so. I can still sense her presence. I know she's not dead. And I'm not gonna give up on finding her. She's my only family I have left. I lost my dad. I can't lose her. Anyways, after the 1995 incident, I became the new King of the Monsters. Immediately, I ended up searching for my mom. I couldn't find her anywhere. It wasn't until 1999 I met a Godzilla who actually had a little bit of information about her. His name was Godzilla, is Godzilla 2000. He told me that he's seen my mom recently, about 2 years ago. But he didn't remember where exactly she was going. All I remember of him telling me about my mom is that she was running from someone or something. I just don't know what. And I wish I knew what she was running from. She was probably trying to avoid me about what happened to my dad. Goji, that wasn't your fault. You know that. I know, Yang, but I just can't help but to blame myself for it. Anyways, I went on searching for her. It wasn't until in 2001 I met a less friendly Godzilla. A very less friendly Godzilla.